Anticoagulants have been found in the livers of some fish in Invercargill rivers, prompting Environment Southland to ask government to look at the issue of emerging contaminants. I spoke to aquatic ecologist Dr. Andy Hicks.
We've found levels of these chemicals which we're a little bit worried about, and we just want further clarification on whether it's something that we should do anything more on.
So what are you actually asking government to do?
Just find out whether the amounts that we're finding pose any kind of risk to human health or ecosystem health. Yeah.
Now, for finding anticoagulants in fish in Southland rivers, how concerning is that?
Well, so we're not alarmed by any means. It's just something which I think needs to be investigated a little bit further, both in terms of anticoagulants, and there's a number of other chemicals that might be entering the environment which we're not monitoring at the moment. So I guess it's just a flag to say, hey, there's potential contaminants out there that are going under the radar, so we need to have a bit more of a structure to think about how to deal with that. And national government's the best avenue for that. It's not really a regional issue, it's a national one.
Now, for anticoagulants to enter the waterways, how are they actually getting in?
Yeah, so that's a question which we don't have a clear answer on. The most likely pathway is probably poisoned animals, so these chemicals are used around households and farm lots and also in more broad scale applications for controlling possums and whatnot. So if those poisoned animals die or go near waterways for some reason, then they may enter the waterway that way. So it's probably a poisoned animal entering a waterway and then moving downstream.
Is there a risk to human health?
We're not sure. We don't think so. The anticoagulants are being found in the livers of the fish, not their muscle tissue, so most people are probably eating the muscle tissue. But in saying that, apparently some people do eat livers of eels, so yeah, we don't think so, but it's another reason we want to get more guidance, because we don't want to underreact and we don't want to overreact.
Now, is there potential for other chemicals to also be in the waterways as well?
Yeah, sure. So there's a number of other chemicals that get used very widely. Things like veterinary drugs like ivermectin gets used a lot. There's metals. There's PAHs, which are a byproduct of fuel consumption. There's a number of other chemicals that are already being taken quite seriously overseas, but I guess we haven't started looking at them too much here.
Now, aside from human health, I guess in terms of these chemicals getting into the waterways, what kind of impact could it have on water quality and the health of rivers?
Yeah, so that's one of our concerns. So one of the objectives in our water plan is that fish shall not be rendered unsuitable for human consumption by the presence of contaminants, and it's hard to know what contaminants we need to keep an eye out for. And so again, that's why we want guidance from national government based on the usage of chemicals and potential pathways for them to enter the environment. Which kinds of contaminants do we need to concentrate on?
Raising the age of retirement has been put forward as an option by Treasury in its long-term fiscal position statement today. Releasing the statement, Affording Our Future, Treasury says policy adjustments are needed either to spending areas or to revenue, or a mixture of both. One of the options put forward was raising the age of eligibility for the pension by 6 months a year, starting in the 2019 to 20 fiscal year. So after 4 years, 67 would be the age of eligibility. Another option was to raise the GST rate from 15% to 17.5% from the 2017 to 18 year. Treasury is required to prepare a statement on New Zealand's long-term fiscal position at least every 4 years. Food prices rose more than 2% in June, the biggest monthly rise since October 2010. According to Statistics New Zealand, food prices rose 2.1% from May to June. Within that, fruit and vegetable prices rose 13%. Prices manager Chris Pike says this reflects seasonally higher prices for some items, while for the year to June, the annual rise was 0.6%, with fruit and vegetables the main driver. Non-alcoholic beverage prices also rose. These increases were offset by price decreases for grocery food. Organisers of the Auckland to Bluff Ocean Race say the event has received a major boost, with Team Australia, a record-breaking 60-foot trimaran, planning to take part in the inaugural race in February. Dubbed Australia's fastest sailing boat, Team Australia has broken several sailing records over the past year. The event has 9 expressions of interest listed on its website, including 3 boats from Australia. Event manager for the race, Craig Susu, says there have been several expressions of interest from yachts over the past week, and Team Australia is the 5th international yacht to give an expression of interest. Entries for the inaugural event are limited to 30 boats. And stay with us after the break, how police are taking a new approach to fighting crime. Welcome back. Water Safety New Zealand would like to see life jackets made compulsory around the country, but Chief Executive Matt Claridge says he wants to see compulsory skipper education first. Southland Regional Harbour Master Kevin O'Sullivan says he supports the idea of a national law, but says life jackets are already compulsory in the region following the introduction of a bylaw in 2009 making them mandatory in boats under 6 metres and in larger boats at times of risk. He says the bylaw has made people take more notice of their own safety and has improved water safety in the region. A bylaw around life jackets is also in place in the Queenstown Lakes District. Environment Southland intends to raise concerns with government around the potential impacts of exploration activities for minerals in the Longwood Range, with councillors discussing the issue yesterday. Government has proposed to offer competitive tenders for mineral exploration at a number of blocks, including the Longwood Range block, which contains 10 known heritage sites, including former gold mining sites and structures like Turnbull's Dam. Councillors intend to draw attention to possible damage to these structures. While some councillors voiced concerns about the possible environmental impacts of mining, Chair Ali Timms says proposals are for exploration only at this stage and adverse effects on the environment would be considered during the resource consent process. Police have a target of reducing crime by 13% by 2014 to 15, part of a strategy to reduce offending and victimisation. I spoke to Southland Area Commander Inspector Lane Todd about the Prevention First strategy and the 5 key drivers of crime being targeted.
And the main focus overall is to actually prevent crime, not just sit there and respond to it. So the work we've done in the last 3 years, we feel that this will just enhance those results even further.
What kind of programs or action could we see in place that's actually out there preventing crime?
I guess a couple of examples of we've got our neighbourhood policing team in South Invercargill, and that team's purely come as a result of the Prevention First strategy. That team's purely focusing on sort of medium to long-term goals, and I'm talking sort of like 2 to 5 year period. So they're major problems. So they've already done surveys in their local community looking at what the problems are, and now they're actually developing plans how to manage that. They're also working with one of our major criminal families in Invercargill, and they're doing that with a collaborative approach with other agencies. So we expect we're not going to see results straight away from that, but we expect that we will see some good results long term. And that's one example, and there's other examples I can talk about shortly.
Now, another area that is, of course, an ongoing problem for police is family violence. How do you actually manage to prevent that?
Yeah, with family violence, as we know, that's one particular area we haven't been able to reduce. But having said that, the crime stats that will be coming out shortly, we actually have had a reduction this year, but that's probably the first time for 3 or 4 years. But we have identified that we need to put more resource in there. So we've put an additional staff member into that team, and that member will be purely looking at prevention strategies as opposed to being more reactive, which we probably are at the moment. So that's going to take us time to get those embedded, but that's certainly one of our major focuses moving forward for the next 1 to 2 years. Another one we're looking at too from a prevention point of view is just some basic stuff like theft X cars. Believe it or not, now we have our staff out there on night shifts and they're actually checking car doors in some of our problem hotspots. Of course, if the door is unlocked, we're giving some crime prevention notices in the car. We obviously lock the car. And then, so just little things like that is actually getting the staff heavily involved in actually trying to prevent the crime rather than just waiting for someone to actually perhaps go in there and steal some items from that vehicle.
Now, are you actually seeing any results at this point?
Well, we are, but they're probably quite small results, and as we know, we've had really good reductions in the last 3 years, so that is starting to plateau down. But, I mean, the neighbourhood policing team, we're probably not going to see some really good tangible results here for a couple of years, and that probably sounds a long time, but we have to realise that some of the problems down in that area are going to take a long time to fix. They're not going to be 5-minute issues. But if we talk about the Theft X car example I discussed then, what we're certainly noticing there is just that little initiative there that just come from our frontline staff. That's already seeing quite a big reduction in the last 1 month to 6 weeks, quite a large reduction in Theft X cars. So it's just little initiatives like that. We are certainly going to see some positive results.
The 2013 ILT Kids Zone starts in less than a week, with close to 11,000 people expected to attend the annual event. The festival, now in its 9th year, starts next Wednesday and usually sells out. It's held over 6 days at James Hargest College and has around 170 activities. Those activities include a Mad Professor's Lab, a makeup stall and a photo booth area. The event needs around 150 volunteers a day, and with less than a week before it starts, Festival Director Laura Russell says another 50 people are still needed to help out.
We're always looking still usually up to the event. The weekdays we're pretty much on top of now, but we could do with some more volunteers for the weekend.
So how many more people do you need?
We're looking for about 50 on the Saturday, maybe another 40 people for the Sunday. It's such a great event to volunteer at though, so we are confident we'll get the volunteers we need.
I guess if you weren't able to find the volunteers, what happens then?
We would have to, it would just mean that things take a little bit longer, so the lines would be longer. It means in the hairdressing room, the funky doos, there might not be 6-7 stations of hair going, that sort of thing. It means the event goes a little bit slower.
Now, in terms of volunteers, you need hundreds of volunteers every year to help run the event. What kinds of things do they do?
It's such a range of things, and that's what's really neat, is people get to sort of be in rooms that are their strengths. We have 4 craft rooms this year, so if craft's your thing, we can put you down there. We have the bikes, which are really fun. Spooky makeup, which is kind of special effects makeup, lots of wounds. You see kids walking around with a nail sticking out of the hand. Anything you are good at, want to have a go at, you can come down and volunteer.
In terms of volunteers, are you looking for anything in particular?
Just people that are really friendly and want to have a go. You don't have to have any particular special talents. You just have to be a big kid at heart, and the volunteers really make our festival. So, someone that wants to enjoy themselves and smile.
And that's it from News Tonight. Coming up in sport, we're at the final Southland Zero Fees Sharks practice before the playoffs at the weekend. From the news team, good night.